Good afternoon and welcome to NDTV's YouTube channel. I'm Vishnu. Today is a truly historic day in this country. A 5-judge bench of the Supreme Court of India has ruled on the Ayodhya dispute. It's been one of the longest running disputes in this country. It affects millions of people in India. It's been watched very closely around the world. Justice Babri, who shortly takes over as the new Chief Justice of India, said it's one of the most important verdicts anywhere in the world. Essentially what has been decided now is that the disputed land in Ayodhya would go to the Hindu community, and in exchange and in the interests of justice, members of the Muslim community would get 5 acres of land in Ayodhya where they would eventually construct a new mosque. That's the upshot of the entire judgment, as it were. The Supreme Court said that it went into a great deal of evidence in coming to this conclusion. It believed, and this is what the judgment says, that there was clear evidence of the existence of a structure beneath the remnants of the Babri Masjid. Remember, the Masjid itself was demolished on the 6th of December 2002. That said, the Supreme Court did mention that the fact that there was a masjid over there is not in dispute. The fact that Muslims prayed over there is not in dispute. And that the process of demolishing the masjid in 2002 was illegal. They also referred to an instance several decades back when idols had been placed in Hindu idols had been placed in the Babri Masjid. They referred to that as being illegal as well. So in the interests of justice, in the interests of the Constitution, in the interests of fair play to both communities, the Supreme Court reached this particular verdict where there's going to be a trust which is going to be formed within a period of 3 months. The Supreme Court has named who are going to be some of the members of this trust, and this trust is then going to go about the process of actually building the temple itself, and that would presumably start shortly thereafter. Many in the Muslim community feel that this particular judgment needs to be reviewed. They've stated this as well. There is a finite period of time within which an appeal, a review petition can be filed. But I think anybody who chooses to review this petition would need to take into account one very basic fact. There were 5 judges in the Supreme Court, and this was a unanimous judgment which was pronounced by the Chief Justice of India. What does this mean politically? Well, a lot of people would want to know whether this puts an end to Mandir Masjid politics in India, or would this in fact put politics of Mandir and Masjid back into the front burner from being in the back burner as it's been for some time now, simply because there is, some would argue, a great deal to gain on the back of this particular verdict, but that's unclear at this stage. So what we have been trying to do on NDTV is to essentially bring you the facts of this particular judgment. A couple of questions have come to me as well. I'm going to try and answer them. What would be the procedure for the review plea? I've answered that. Essentially, there would be a review plea which would be filed. There are indicators which have been given that the All India Muslim Personal Law Board does not accept this. So if they are to go to the court, then within a few weeks they would need to do that, file a review petition. What about the culprits involved in the demolition of the mosque? This is actually a very important part of the verdict, and the judges have said that that process of the destruction was wrong. Remember, in 1992, right-wing activists tore down the Babri Masjid, which they believed was built on the ruins of an ancient temple. The judge today making it absolutely clear that there was no doubt that that process of destroying the Babri Masjid was wrong, and that this is a criminal case and this continues in a separate court. So there's, apart from mentioning that demolition was wrong, they didn't say very much in this judgment about something which will ultimately result in a judgment in this criminal case. What about the Nirmohi Akhada? What provisions have been made to them? As I understand it, the Nirmohi Akhada will be one of the bodies who have been named in that trust which I referred to. That trust will be overseeing what happens in that particular disputed site, which will now belong to the Hindu community. It will be run by this trust, which would pave the way for the construction of a temple in that particular area. So those are a couple of the questions which have been asked of us. It's a very, very important day. Who were the judges over here? Justice S.A. Bobde, D.Y. Chandrachud, Ashok Bhushan, S. Abdul Nazir, and of course Chief Justice of India Ranjan Gogoi. This had to be done before the retirement of Gogoi on the 17th of November. Mr. Justice Bobde takes over at that stage. So a couple of important judgments coming up in the next couple of days. This is certainly the most important one, is what a lot of people would say.